Hey, everybody at Arrow's Edge. I am so excited to bring you your training today where we're going to talk about, hey, what does it look like to really step fully into your identity, do life intentionally with God, and fulfill that God-given destiny. Here I have today my good friend, Dan. He was on 2 weeks ago. If you missed it, make sure and go back and watch that. But I tell you what, he has such a story, and I felt like we didn't have time to cover it in just one training. There are so many things that we could be learning from Dan's story. And so I just want you to tune in, hear a little bit of his heart and what happened, and then what God did through the coaching that brought him into utter breakthrough. So I'm really excited. Hold on tight. We got a great story for you. So Dan, tell us a little bit about the situation surrounding what brought you into coaching. What was going on in your life?
My goodness, Rebecca, this was an incredible, deep place in my life. I had not been at such a low point in my whole life. You see, I had gone through a really tough divorce. My wife had left me, really difficult situation, a difficulty with relationships and family members, just a really rough position. And I was in my emotions at that time. So it was really feeling captive to how I was feeling in the situation and didn't really know even how to express that. And so with this going on in my life, I was working at a company with about 20 years of experience, and here I'd hit a really low point, and all of a sudden I had, for the first time in my career, I now had a personal improvement program, which is basically the thing that happens right before you get fired. So I'd never been in that position. I've always had bonuses and done very, very well in my work. But see, I was so under my emotions at that point. It was such a deep place, and I didn't even know how deep it was impacting me. See, I was getting stuck in shame. And then I would find myself into guilt, where I would be wanting to please people around me. And that shame was just so toxic. And it just wasn't a place that was serving me well. And so what was happening was I was having issues with stakeholder management at my work and how I was communicating with those stakeholders. I couldn't necessarily think as they think to give them what they really needed. See, I was just dealing with my own emotions instead of being able to read what they truly needed, to see things from their perspective. So I was kind of stuck inside of myself. I needed to improve some listening skills on what I was doing really to listen and understand people that were around me, and also to take on more in terms of understanding what leadership really means. See, just because I was going through a difficult time personally did not mean that my workplace needed to have a less version of me in that time. So it was really a difficult place. I was trying to understand, how do I even get my head above the water in the middle of all this? And that's where I came to the point of coaching here with Arrow's Edge. I knew that I needed some help. And I was really, really happy then to take on this coaching opportunity.
Yeah, so you went from getting high bonuses, excelling in your career, major just compliments all the time about what you're doing, to hitting like rock bottom. And the reason why is when you have such a traumatic experience, I know a lot of you out there in our group and out there our subscribers on YouTube, you have been through these painful things that cause you, that tear into the very identity of who you are. What did I do? What caused this? What happened? And honestly, I watched him just get really just torn apart. But remember, God brings beauty from the ashes. That's the thing. It's there's purpose in the pain. There is tension in the mystery. But the one thing I loved about you is you were beginning to walk through grieving authentically. And so and this is one of my favorite things to bring about, is something really came out of it that actually as a result, became a coaching tool that I now use. And it also became a message that I preached in our church because he had such a tremendous self-discovery that just opened the door to this breakthrough. Now, see, here he was, he's stuck in this shame, guilt, and fear cycle. That's what it was. Shame, guilt, and fear cycle. And it caused these actions that were really messing up his work life, messing up his personal life, and just really upheavaled everything that he was going through. So Dan, God gave you a great story. You had an aha moment during one of our coaching sessions that kind of gave me an aha moment. Like, yeah, that's the thing. So can you tell us a little bit about the breakthrough that you got and how like you associated a different set of words to create a new cycle to go through? Can you share that with our viewers?
Absolutely. And Rebecca, thank you again. This was an incredibly deep time in my life. So I was coming where I couldn't hide this anymore. Like I was living this life where it seemed that I could do it. I could put on a brave face that everything was going to be okay. And really things were being revealed. See, pressure was put on. And this PIP, my manager did a good job of articulating the areas that I needed to improve. And I didn't even know that those areas, once I adjusted them in my workplace, that it was also going to spill out in my personal life, in my relationships. And I didn't know like there was so much opportunity in the midst of this. So the cycle of fear, guilt, and shame, all that it would take is one of those items to take me into the cycle. If I got in fear about a presentation that I needed to give at work, then guess what? Now I'm kind of retreating. I'm putting on a brave face, but I'm not really having the conversations I needed to have with the right individuals. And there was one executive who was seeing some things and started to expose and push on things. And all of a sudden, I found myself in the middle of a meeting being degraded by this executive publicly. And of course, my manager hears about it. It was just a really, really difficult situation. But what was happening, this fear, this guilt, this shame, were things that were happening in the context of my own mistakes. Because I was in my emotions, those things were overtaking me. Now, what I learned was that my listening skills would get turned off in the middle of this. I needed to counteract this cycle of fear, guilt, and shame by their polar opposites. What's the opposite of fear? The opposite of fear is to be courageous.
Come on.
And really, there's a way of being courageous that takes into account what other people are experiencing. And so we consider, really, we know there's a scripture that says perfect love casts out fear. Well, maybe love's a part of that courageous thing. That maybe it's courageous love is what's actually happening on the other cycle. So we have this fear, guilt, and shame, and I've called this the cycle of doom.
I love that.
And it's like you're in the middle of this, and it's the worst thing because you're in it and you don't know the way out. But let me tell you, if you're stuck in fear today, I am telling you the way out is to come into agreement with the truth that courageous love is on the other side of what you're experiencing, and to get outside of the emotions of it and into the truth of what's going to set you free. And see, on the side of shame itself, I have found in my life, anytime that shame has been there, it actually, I'm not trying to blame this thing, but shame has made my communications toxic. See, I'm keeping it hidden. It can't be dealt with if I'm keeping that thing. It's basically guilt that is now being hidden. And I'm taking on that burden myself. So there's a pressure that's just building inside of me if I'm battling the shame in that moment. And the fact is, what happens there, if shame is my enemy, then what is my friend? And I found that it was authenticity and transparency. And so now, if I can come in and say, I feel ashamed at this particular area in my life, you know what that means? I need to expose it. I need to deal with that thing that is the absolute worst thing. That is what coaching does. I'm telling you guys today that When your coach presses on that thing that you're not willing to do, let me tell you, that is your area of greatest opportunity. And so that place of shame and instead going into transparency and authenticity to really deal with it. And really both of these things that I'm talking about so far, the fear and the shame, really it comes down to a matter of my own character, keeping my word to myself and others. And I'll tell you what, if I'm trying to please everybody, I can't possibly keep my word to everybody. I've got to keep my word to myself first. And so I'm discovering all of this in the context of the coaching. It was incredible. And you know what? On the side of I was feeling guilty, especially in the case, I knew I dropped the ball in some areas when I was talking with that executive. And the thing was, I was feeling so guilty about it. But now, even though it's exposed, I feel guilty about it. And you know what I realized was I was not taking steps to stay ahead of this. And so I learned the opposite of being guilty was to be proactive. And see, choosing that part, I already know that there are multiple steps that need to be taken to do my job with excellence. Whether I'm doing my job at work, whether I'm doing my relationships, that I could choose to be proactive. And you know what? That doesn't mean that I am bowing at the whim of everybody and trying to please everybody. That's a former version of me. Unfortunately, I used to do that. But the fact is, I am accountable first to myself and my own character. What am I going to agree to? What am I going to do with my actions? So coming out of that cycle of fear, guilt, and shame, coming into a new cycle, the cycle of empowerment.
Come on.
And come into that cycle to shift it, where my shame is now turned into transparency, where guilt is turned into being proactive, and fear is turned into being courageously loving in every situation. So that was such an epiphany when I discovered that. That was a self-discovery. Rebecca was asking questions, powerful questions, so to lead me into this self-discovery. And that is my story.
Man, okay, so let's take another look at this. So shame makes us hide. So the way to get out shame is to actually just bring it into the light. I have other clients that can tell you, we don't do shame here. Like, that is a core value of Arrow's Edge. So to come out of shame, we just simply bring it into light through authenticity and transparency, right? You want to get out of guilt? Get into integrity, right? Be proactive. That's that middle part of what I say. We're doing life on purpose. Not just within our purpose, but intentionally. So when we're doing life on purpose and intentionally, we're not creating big messes that we have to go clean up, right? And in that fear, sometimes it just takes 10 seconds of courage to step into that thing that God has called you to do. And so a lot of us, we go round and around the merry-go-round of shame, guilt, and fear, and shame, guilt, and fear. And what we established in that coaching session that day was like, be transparent, be proactive and intentional, and step out in courage to do everything God has called you to do. It has been amazing to watch the benefits and the growth that has happened. So, Dan, you came from a place where your identity was shaken right down to the foundation. You were seeing some things that needed to change. You came to coaching and we ended up in this place. Tell us just a little bit. What has happened since? How has this affected your job, your relationships, and those things?
Absolutely. So with this understanding and now having some principles and tools in front of me, this was able to shift how I was thinking. And the thing is, once you decide to change your thinking, it takes a little bit of time to put all of this into practice. Because really what's happening is I now see the pressure was on and that I know that I needed to make a change. And so I begin to make that change with my head. Now that change needs to also reside in my heart. And the fact is I start by changing my behavior. So I started by thinking ahead and planning, how am I having these conversations with different stakeholders in my work? How am I having conversations in my relationships and the people close to me and my family? How am I doing that? and taking it when I feel a certain way. If shame is something I'm dealing with in a particular moment, I choose to let that thing be exposed. Don't hide it. And the fact is to not feel stuck if I feel fearful over something. And the fact is, if I allowed myself to come into those things, I knew that was then becoming an on-ramp to the cycle of doom.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. So there's time to make that adjustment. And the fact is, I found that some of the worst behaviors that I have in my life are related to if I am feeling shame. Then it leads me into this point. I feel that there's some injustice going on when something is happening, and then I feel angry about it. And I don't even know what to do. And this is the place where I recognize this feeling is only an indicator of what is actually happening. There's something in my belief system that needs to be adjusted. And that is what you can go after through the coaching process as well, is like, I want to have higher level belief systems that serve me through truth, that confront the lies. And you know what? The thing is, it's okay. And it's okay to admit that you have been believing lies in your life, because those lies hold you captive and they hold you stuck in fear, guilt, and shame, and it's time to deal with them. And that was what I found, and what my life has looked like now is that I don't find myself stuck in those areas for very long. I might feel that way for a few minutes, a few hours, but it's not for days and weeks and months. None of that stuff anymore. I can see it, I can recognize it, I can adjust it and make those changes in my life. And I tell you what, this is not just an act, this is not a show, this is my life. This is the things that matter so much to me. And I tell you what, when it comes to the matter, your family is on the line. Your job is on the line. This stuff really matters. And this is where it's time to apply those principles and really get serious about it. Because this is where you're going to have the transformation.
Come on. I'm telling you, his story is tremendous. And guess what? You guys have not heard the last of him. He has so much depth to his story. But I tell you what, since then, it's been a year or so since the coaching. Since then, I tell you, it's the song that comes to mind is A Whole New World. A whole new world. Like, he's totally changed and grown, and like the emotional strength has just accelerated. And I just want to say, man, you did the work, and I am so proud of you. And it is amazing. And so one exciting news is he has decided to join the Arrow's Edge team. And so you just wait over the next few months into the coming year. You will have not heard the last from this guy here who has such a dramatic change in his life. I cannot wait to see what God has ahead for him, for Arrow's Edge, and for all the things we have coming. New vision, fresh just a lot of things coming your way. So you got to stay tuned. And so, hey, as we wrap up, any last thoughts?
I tell you what, thank you, Rebecca, this wonderful announcement. I am really excited, just beyond ecstatic. I have seen some of the results of your clients, and I know many of your clients personally, that there is such breakthrough when going into tackling those big things, that thing that you resist the most, that really has the greatest opportunity for you. You know what? That may sound really daunting. That may sound like it's something that's really fearful that you may have to attack. But let me tell you, it is so, so worth it. And so I look forward to appearances or to involvement here with this group. I just can't wait to see what God is going to do with these stories, what God's going to do through coaching in this environment. And really, it's a matter of hearing God. Because you know what? A lot of this coaching was a matter of Rebecca hearing God to ask the right questions. And then in the middle of that appointment, it's like Jesus is right there at the table with us. And he's speaking to me about where the hope is and where the future is. And it is everything. And it is so worth it. if you will confront your fears. And I think there's a phrase that goes with that, to run at your Goliaths. And that is exactly what it takes. Just courageously love, and you will be amazed at what happens. So I'm really excited to be joining this team, excited for what's to come. Thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah, thank you. I am so excited to have you alongside. And I tell you what we have coming forward is tremendous. So do me a favor, take a second, comment below. What is the thing that you heard Dan say that affected your heart the most? And what is one thing that you can apply to your life today? And I encourage you, listen, everybody deserves to see those mountaintop views. And so, I charge you, it is time. The time is now to invest in yourself, to really have these major breakthroughs in your life, to really get to see all that God has for you, to really come true. And this guy's proof right here. This is not just another coaching program. This is actually life transformation that has long-lasting results. He's got a story that he'll be sharing in a while that's going to show you that this is something that is got tremendous long-lasting results. I can't wait to share more of Dan's story with you. So hop on, comment below, direct message me. It's no longer time to wait or this is the time to invest in yourself so that you can step fully into who you're called to be. Because listen, you can say, I need to work, I need to build this business, I need to all these things before I work on my life. But he is living proof that you've got to work on your heart. You got to work on your emotional strength. You got to work on yourself to get into wholeness before you take on these things, because the level of your wholeness will affect the entire rest of your life, including your career, including that business you're trying to build, including that MLM you're part of. All of that is affected by the level of wholeness you carry. So I really encourage you, if you're ready to step up, have that mountaintop view of your life, contact us. Let us know. We're ready to serve you, or we're excited to help walk you into everything that God called you to be. So thanks for listening, guys. Remember, comment below. We bless you. We love you. It is so great to have you with us. And we're here cheering you on all the way. We'll talk to you soon.